Hey BookTube, welcome back to my Princeton University Press book sale part 2 video. I'm out of control. This is like a marathon. I haven't made like 4 videos in a row before. Gonna upload them at some different times though. I think when you see this video, it might be the day after I've actually shot it. But you know what? I felt like I started with Princeton. Well, I didn't start with the Princeton video, but you know what? I should finish the part 2 the same day that I filmed part 1. So, what else did I get from Princeton? Well, hold on to your hats. It gets better. Actually, let's start with this one, since one of the last books I showed you was a book on the Mexican heartland and capitalism. This one takes a really different approach to like Mexican historiography, philosophy, identity, cultural, political history. It just sounded so different, and the cover was so enigmatic. I was like, you know what? For what, $7? I definitely want to give this a try. So this is Death and the Idea of Mexico by Claudio Lomnitz. It's put out by Zone Books, but they were offering it for sale on the Princeton site. So this was Princeton. Yes, it was. Okay. I'm just double checking. It has nice sturdy flaps. It's kind of yeah. I'm not sure why Zone they're carrying a Zone book, but I mean, it must be they must have some type of a deal with that publisher. But anyway, so Death and the Idea of Mexico is the first social, cultural, and political history of death in a nation that has made death its tutelary sign. Examining the history of death and of the death sign from the 16th century Holocaust to contemporary Mexican-American identity politics, anthropologist Claudio Lomnitz's innovative study marks a turning point in understanding Mexico's rich and unique use of death imagery. Unlike contemporary Europeans and Americans, whose denial of death permeates their cultures, the Mexican people display and cultivate a jovial familiarity with death. This intimacy with death has become the cornerstone of Mexico's national identity. It is tempting to view this rich elaboration of death imagery as yet another example of an, quote, invented tradition, that is, a cult shaped by the modern state's cultural policies or by the narrow interests of contemporary identity politics. Lomnitz takes a different approach. Rather than flattening out the tradition by insisting only on the ways it is willfully manipulated, this book focuses on the dialectical relationship between dying, killing, and the administration of death, and the very formation of the colonial state, of a rich and variegated popular culture, and of the Mexican nation itself. The elevation of Mexican intimacy with death to the center of national identity is but a moment within that history, within a history in which the key institutions of society are built around the claims of the fallen. So, fabulous. It was blurbed by American Historical Review, American Ethnologist, and Book Forum. Cool. So it's like work of, anthropology, cultural study, but it just sounded intriguing as heck. So I picked up this. All right. Next book I picked up. I was curious because a recent book I reviewed on this channel, Death at the Edges of Empire by Shannon Bontrager, of whom I'm very happy to say that I will be interviewing on this channel. We'll have a little discussion on the book and get his input on that book, but in his, it's just going to be like an authored interview and discussion. I'm really looking forward to it. That'll be coming in the next week or two, so look out for that. But in his book, he quotes a lot from this particular scholar because he has a name, unfortunately, that you can't forget. But he had really intriguing quotes about how memory works, in cultural society. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Listen. But he has his own book. He's written many books, and I was like, let me go ahead and, explore some of this man's work. And so I picked up this. This is The Invention of Religion, Faith and Covenant in the Book of Exodus by Jan Assmann. That, you know what. Anyway, so...
if I have to work on a weekend, this is what you get from me.
She's working on a weekend, so she's a little bit punchy.
Or just
punch... Well, she wants to punch something because she's working right now. Yeah, you know me. I'm a Christian. I like to study the Bible. I like to read theology. I like to read different viewpoints about how we come to the books of the Bible and stuff like this. So, I was like, oh, Jan Assmann. Yeah. Shannon Bontrager referenced him quite a bit as far as his theories on memory in Death at the Edges of Empire. So I thought, you know what? Let's go ahead and just take a little side route out, rabbit hole down another hole and discover more. So I had never heard of Jan Assmann before or his work, but thanks to Death at the Edges of Empire by Bontrager, I was introduced. So I'm intrigued. So actually, I'll read you a quick snippet of what we're talking about here. The book of Exodus may be the most consequential story ever told, but its spectacular moments of heaven-sent plagues and parting seas overshadow its true significance, says Jan Assmann, a leading historian of ancient religion. The story of Moses guiding the enslaved children of Israel out of captivity to become God's chosen people is the foundation of an entirely new idea of religion, one that lives on today in many of the world's faiths. The invention of religion sheds new light on ancient scriptures to show how Exodus has shaped fundamental understandings of monotheistic practice and belief. Assmann delves into the enduring mythic power of the Exodus narrative, examining the text's compositional history and calling attention to distinctive motifs and dichotomies, enslavement and redemption, belief and doubt, proper worship and idolatry, loyalty and betrayal. Revelation is a central theme. The revelation of God's power in miracles, of God's presence in the burning bush, and of God's chosen dwelling among the Israelites in the vision of the tabernacle. Above all, it is God's covenant with Israel, the binding obligation of the Israelites to acknowledge God as their Redeemer and obey His law, that is Exodus's most encompassing and transformative idea, one that challenged basic assumptions about humankind's relationship to the divine in the ancient world. So, yeah, The Invention of Religion. It's a powerful account of how ideas of faith, revelation, and covenant, first introduced in Exodus, shaped Judaism and were later adopted by Christianity and Islam to form the bedrock of the world's Abrahamic religions. So, yeah, I picked this one up as well, 75% off, just wonderful. I'm always happy to, you know what? Wait, sorry, this thing is trippy. My eyes are like, it's like water moving. This cover is like, my vision, wow, getting a little dizzy. It's a cool cover though, the water. So I just love the, yeah, I'm fine. I just love the serendipity of things, when you're reading and it's like, okay, I'm reading this book by Bontrager, and then Assmann comes across. I'm like, oh, wow, that's an unfortunate name, being juvenile. And then I'm like, oh, but his ideas are really cool, And then as I'm browsing the sale, I'm like, oh, Jan Assmann, he's that scholar that he was referring to. And so, that's just where, ideas take you, and you can just keep going on forever and ever. Learning is such a wonderfully fun journey. It's such a ride, isn't it? Fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really into it.
Right.
I'm on this roller coaster by myself apparently, so that's fine.
I'm trying to figure out.
She's working. She's doing something. Okay. The next book I picked up, I kind of left the category, because you could look under the sale and filter by subject. So I was looking mostly under history, but then I went under philosophy just for, shits and giggles. But yeah, size 4. That's okay. Woo! I picked up Pagans and Philosophers. The Problem of Paganism from Augustine to Leibniz by John Marenbon. Some of the volume there. Yeah, so this one talks about that from the turn of the 5th century to the beginning of the 18th, Christian writers were fascinated and troubled by the problem of paganism, which this book identifies and examines for the first time. Okay. How could the wisdom and virtue of the great thinkers of antiquity be reconciled with the fact that they were pagans and, many thought, damned? Related questions were raised by encounters with contemporary pagans in Northern Europe, Mongolia, and later America and China. Pagans and philosophers explores how writers, philosophers and theologians, but also poets such as Dante, Chaucer, and Langland, and travelers such as Las Casas and Ricci, tackled the problem of paganism. So we have Augustine and Boethius set its terms, while Peter Abelard and John of Salisbury were important early advocates of pagan wisdom and virtue. University theologians such as Aquinas, Scotus, Occam, and Bradwardine, and later thinkers such as Ficino, Valla, More, Bale, and Leibniz explored the difficulty in depth. Meanwhile, Albert the Great inspired Boethius of Dacia and others to create a relativist conception of scientific knowledge that allowed Christian teachers to remain faithful Aristotelians. I love that word, Aristotelians. At the same time, early anthropologists such as John of Piano Carpini.
Yeah, you're just making shit up.
I'm not making.
That is not a place.
It says John of Piano Carpini.
Right.
I will show it on screen. John Mandeville and Montaigne developed other sorts of relativism in response to the issue.
Is that where John Tesh now lives? That sounds like where John Tesh now lives.
Piano Carpini?
Yeah.
It's either that or a new Italian dish I haven't tried yet.
Him and Connie,
But-
Selica.
Oh, Connie Selica. Okay. Anyway, so this sounds like an interesting. Oh, we got a lot of. We've got some. What's this? Italian, straight up Italian. I wish I could read Italian. You know. I bought this on a whim. I'm gonna say a whim. It was an impulse buy, but you know, because I'm not a huge philosophy student. A lot of the stuff goes woo, so I'm not gonna act like I'll read this and I'll try to grok it. But some of this might be a little bit over my head. But hey, I like to challenge myself mentally. So this will be a challenge. Pagans and philosophers. All right, getting back to, books that I definitely have a stronger grasp on. Just straight up history. And in this case, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of political military strategy. This will go with the new biography that came out. I have it right behind the computer screen on the bookcase behind this, but they had a new biography come out on the Habsburgs. And so when I saw this, I was like, this will make a great companion to that. And this is The Grand Strategy of the Habsburg Empire by A. West Mitchell. Yes?
They have the best family portraits.
The Habsburgs, yeah. Right on. They do. So, yeah. And this is obviously Princeton. So, this one takes, it talks about their strategy for, dealing with all of the different powers that were all around them at the time. So as it says here, flanked on four sides by rivals, it possessed few of the advantages that explain successful empires. The Habsburg army was not renowned for offensive prowess, its finances were often shaky, and its populace was fragmented into more than a dozen ethnicities. Yet somehow Austria endured, outlasting Ottoman sieges, Frederick the Great, and Napoleon. The Grand Strategy of the Habsburg Empire tells the story of how this cash-strapped, most dangerous neighborhood... Oh, sorry, I just skipped a whole line. I've been doing this a long time. How this cash-strapped, polyglot empire survived for centuries in Europe's most dangerous neighborhood without succumbing to the pressures of multi-sided warfare. Taking readers from the War of the Spanish Succession in the early 1700s to the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, A. West Mitchell argues that the Habsburgs succeeded not through offensive military power or great wealth, but by developing strategies that manipulated the element of time in geopolitical competition. Interesting. I won't read the entire thing because I know your time is limited, as is my voice. So I got The Grand Strategy of the Habsburg Empire, guys. These are just beautiful books. They're brand new, and they were just so affordable. Thank you, Princeton University Press, for having that sale. I look forward to the one next year as well because, wow, good stuff. I'm going to save that other one for a little later. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go to this one. So, my friend and fellow booktuber John David also sometimes we like to go on these shopping things together and say, "What did you get? What are you looking at?" He's my partner in crime, and but he's wicked smart, and he's a philosophy major, and I think he got I think his degree was in both physics and philosophy. I mean, the guy is wicked intelligent, and he groks the philosophy stuff big time. Well, he said he was getting this book, and then I noticed like one name in it, and I'm like, oh, well, I like Hannah Arendt, and so I'm like, let me try. I could maybe try to read this and keep up with you, but we'll see. But this is Heidegger's Children, Hannah Arendt, Karl Loveth, Hans Jonas, and Herbert Marcuse. It's by Richard Wolin, with a new preface by the author. I've been getting some books on. I have several books by Hannah Arendt, and I've read Eichmann in Jerusalem. I think I'll be doing a buddy read, hopefully this summer with Stephanie, who often comments in the comment section, and we're looking at doing a biography on Hannah Arendt, and maybe even doing some more future reading of her works together, which will be great fun. Looking forward to that, Stephanie. But in the meantime, I'm kind of collecting more books that have Hannah Arendt either as the topic or as just kind of one of many. In this case, this is a book that talks about her relationship with Heidegger, and intellectually, not just physically. But let me just read this to you real quick. Martin Heidegger is often heralded as one of the 20th century's most important thinkers, and his work has stimulated much that is original and compelling in modern thought. A seductive classroom presence, he attracted Germany's brightest young intellects during the 1920s. Many were Jews who ultimately would have to reconcile their philosophical and often personal commitments to Heidegger with his nefarious political views. In 1933, Heidegger eagerly cast his lot with National Socialism, seeking to make his philosophy of existence serviceable for the new regime's diabolical ends. He squelched the careers of Jewish students and denounced fellow professors whom he considered insufficiently radical. Until the very end, Heidegger remained loyal to the Nazis' plans for European political hegemony. Why did these brilliant minds fail to see what was in Heidegger's heart and Germany's future? How would they reappraise German intellectual traditions, whose ideological innocence in the aftermath of the Holocaust could no longer be merely assumed? Could these Heidegger students forgive or even understand the betrayal of the man to whom they were in so many important respects so profoundly indebted? Heidegger's Children re-examines such paradoxes as it explores the fraught conjuncture where politics, philosophy, and human existence intersect. So, that sounds fascinating, and it sounds like a story about people and just how they reconcile what Heidegger came to represent in later life. And if you've read anything about Hannah Arendt and know that she had a relationship with him as a student, and she always had from what I've seen and read tangentially, I haven't read the full biography on her yet, but there was an ambivalence there. She cared for him, but then she came to loathe what he stood for, what his ideas were, but she learned at his knee too, so it's like so crazy. Anyway, Heidegger's Children. All right, then moving over to another area of interest to me, and I just finished reading a book about. It wasn't a history of Iraq, but it was a history of like the spy masters that were involved with trying to combat the Islamic State in the 2010s. So it was really interesting. This is a book about Iraq, and this came out in 2018. And I don't think it was, I don't think it's nothing in translation. It's just, yeah. So this is State of Repression, Iraq under Saddam Hussein by Lisa Blades. How did Iraq become one of the most repressive dictatorships of the late 20th century? The conventional wisdom about Iraq's modern political history is that the country was doomed by its diverse social fabric. But in State of Repression, Lisa Blades challenges this belief by showing that the country's breakdown was far from inevitable. At the same time, she offers a new way of understanding the behavior of other authoritarian regimes and their populations. Drawing on archival material captured from the headquarters of Saddam Hussein's ruling Ba'ath Party in the wake of the 2003 U.S. invasion, Blades illuminates the complexities of political life in Iraq, including why certain Iraqis chose to collaborate with the regime while others worked to undermine it. She demonstrates that despite the Ba'athist regime's pretensions to political hegemony, its frequent reliance on collective punishment of various groups reinforced and cemented identity divisions. At the same time, a series of costly external shocks to the economy, resulting from fluctuations in oil prices and Iraq's war with Iran, weakened the capacity of the regime to monitor, co-opt, coerce, and control factions of Iraqi society. State of Repression. So, I've read a fair bit on Iraq, but this was a new study that I had never heard of, and it was recent. It was only in 2018 that it came out. So I'm always fascinated. I do read a lot on the Middle Eastern states and their histories, and it's endlessly fascinating to me. What can I say? Okay, then we jump way ancient history. When this book first came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I want it. And then I just wasn't able to find it at a price that I could afford. And, well, now I could afford it on the 75% off sale at Princeton University Press, baby. This is In Search of the Phoenicians by Josephine Quinn. It's a nice little book here. It's go well with my ancient studies.
And Assassin's Creed fandom.
Oh, and Assassin's Creed fandom. In this case, the Greek one. Was it Odyssey? Okay. Sorry. The Phoenicians traveled the Mediterranean long before the Greeks and Romans, trading, establishing settlements, and refining the art of navigation. But who these legendary sailors really were has long remained a mystery. In Search of the Phoenicians makes the startling claim that the Phoenicians never actually existed. Taking readers from the ancient world to today, this monumental book argues that the notion of these sailors as a coherent people with a shared identity, history, and culture is a product of modern nationalist ideologies and a notion very much at odds with the ancient sources. Well, that's fascinating. I like that. That comes right out and says something right there. That they never really existed. They didn't really have a shared identity.
Really good PR department.
Yeah, someone did. Someone had a good PR department.
Yeah.
So this is going to be great. She's talking about coinage. I'm thinking of Jason Harrigan over here. Jason has books. He loves his coins, man. I love it. I just love this stuff. I geek out. So, In Search of the Phoenicians, Josephine Quinn. I was really happy to finally get this for my library at a price that you can't sneeze at. You know what I'm saying? All right. Oh. Okay, just a few more, guys. We're getting to 24 minutes. I'm going to have to really zip through here. Okay. Then I picked up this one, Christian Martyrs under Islam, Religious Violence and the Making of the Muslim World by Christian C. Sonner. Okay. This one is about, let me see here. How did the medieval Middle East transform from a majority Christian world to a majority Muslim world, and what role did violence play in this process? Christian Martyrs Under Islam explains how Christians across the early Islamic Caliphate slowly converted to the faith of the Arab conquerors, and how small groups of individuals rejected this faith through dramatic acts of resistance, including apostasy and blasphemy. Using previously untapped sources in a range of Middle Eastern languages, Christian Sonner introduces an unknown group of martyrs who were executed at the hands of Muslim officials between the 7th and 9th century CE. Found in places as diverse as Syria, Spain, Egypt, and Armenia, they include an alleged descendant of Muhammad who converted to Christianity, high-ranking Christian secretaries of the Muslim state who viciously insulted the Prophet, and the children of mixed marriages between Muslims and Christians. Sonner argues that Christians never experienced systematic persecution under the early caliphs, and indeed they remained the largest portion of the population in the greater Middle East for centuries after the Arab conquest. Still, episodes of ferocious violence contributed to the spread of Islam within Christian societies, and memories of this bloodshed played a key role in shaping Christian identity in the new Islamic empire. So, just fascinating. Sorry. I enjoy religious studies, and what a great bibliography. Wow. It's got a nice glossary. Got some appendices here, comparing Christian and Muslim accounts of martyrdom. Oh, this is good stuff. Names and keywords. It's beautiful. So, another book to add to my, religious history, ancient history, medieval history. Just trying to pick up the pace, guys, for everybody. Okay, so this has also been a book. Well, it's one of three. I think there's three. But, I read Kafka, and I enjoy Kafka. And there is I think it's 3 volumes of biography. But they only offered the one. But I grabbed it, and I figured I'll try to find the other 2 at another time. But it's in hardcover, and this is the first volume in the biography of Kafka, Kafka, The Early Years, by Rainer Stock, translated by Shelley Frisch. Yeah, Shelley Frisch. So this is the first volume, The Early Years. And I think he was writing it backwards, because it says that The Early Years completes a masterful trilogy. So it's like a Benjamin Button biography, where the first volume started off, the last portion of his life, and then the second was in the middle, and then this is the first. But anyway, I like to read that chronologically as far as a person's life, not when the books were printed. So maybe that'll be weird. I don't know. Let me know if anyone out there has read these books, this biographer's telling of Kafka's life. I'd be interested to know.
Can I also put in a request?
Yes.
If anybody else is right now singing the Franz Kafka song from Home Movies, please comment.
Franz Kafka's
Adult Swim. I'm singing that in my head right now.
Adult Swim, Home Movies.
Home Movies.
Let Martine know in the comments, because I don't know what she's talking about.
It's awesome.
Okay. So anyway, this was the eagerly anticipated third and final volume of Rainer Stock's definitive biography of the writer. It talks about the complex personal, political, and cultural circumstances that shaped the young Franz Kafka from 1883 to 1924. So fabulous, but it's so weird that this is the third and final volume. It's written backwards. Anyway, I'm going to try to find the other 2, and then I'll have the complete biography on Kafka.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a little winded. Hang on. My God. Mein Gott. That would be in German. Honey. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this one I had seen a while ago, back on a channel that is no longer functioning. Or at least there's no new content. It's David Murphy's channel that is defunct. I don't know what happened to David, but hey, man. Hope you're well. I think he showed this book And I was like, whoa, who's this guy? So then I looked it up and I was like, well, this sounds like an interesting guy and it's an interesting book. And then I just forgot about it promptly. Then I was browsing this sale and I was like, oh yeah, that's that book. This is Worldly Philosopher, The Odyssey of Albert O. Hirschman by Jeremy Adelman. As you can see, Malcolm Gladwell said it's magnificent. I'm getting a headache. I gotta get off this camera and eat some food. So, Worldly Philosopher chronicles the times and writings of Albert O. Hirschman, one of the 20th century's most original and provocative thinkers. In this gripping biography, Edelman tells the story of a man shaped by modern horrors and hopes, a worldly intellectual who fought for and wrote in defense of the values of tolerance and change. Born in Berlin in 1915, Hirschman grew up amid the promise and turmoil of the Weimar era, but fled Germany when the Nazis seized power in 1933. Amid hardship and personal tragedy, he volunteered to fight against the fascists in Spain and helped many of Europe's leading artists and intellectuals escape to America after France fell to Hitler. His intellectual career led him to Paris, London, and Trieste, and to academic appointments at Columbia, Harvard, and the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. He was an influential advisor to governments in the United States, Latin America, and Europe, as well as major foundations and the World Bank. Along the way, he wrote some of the most innovative and important books in economics, the social sciences, and the history of ideas. Throughout, he remained committed to his belief that reform is possible, even in the darkest of times. And this is the first major account of Hirschman's life, and a tale of the 20th century is seen through the story of an astute and passionate observer. So I love biography. I love learning about new people I never heard of before. And again, this could open up a whole new, another maze of just topics and people. I just flew past something that says Franz Kafka. Look at that. See how oh yeah.
I'm gonna play that song for you.
Oh, she's gonna play it for me now. Okay, not right now. Anyway, nice big chunky biography on Albert O. Hirschman. Thanks, David, for that recommendation. Don't know if you're ever going to see this, but thank you. Okay, finally, to finish up my annual Princeton University Press Haul. Princeton has some type of rights to Isaiah Berlin's writings, and I think that's fantastic. At different times, I've had his books added, Princeton's versions of his work added to my cart, and I just wasn't able to ever pull the trigger on them for some reason or another, probably price. But not all of them were on sale, but most of them were. And I should say there was a selection. There was a certain, not every single book that Princeton had was 75% off, I should say. It was just the books underneath that sale in those categories. But anyway, as you can see, I got a ton. So, as you can see, these were like $6 or $7 each, and so I had to get them. There's more that he has that Princeton has put out, but I picked up Hermione Lee. She wrote a fantastic biography on Virginia Woolf. Definitely worth a reread and another reread. But I loved her. But anyway, she wrote the foreword for this one, Personal Impressions. Just a nice collection of essays with biographical portraits of just tons of thinkers, politicians, and writers of the 20th century. He's got Winston Churchill in here, Roosevelt, Einstein, Virginia Woolf, Aldous Huxley, Boris Pasternak, Anna Akhmatova, just tons of stuff. So this was only $7. Beautiful paperback. And I love how colorful these books are, and the artwork here. Then we have Three Critics of the Enlightenment, with a foreword by Jonathan Israel. This is edited by Henry Hardy. These are all edited by Henry Hardy, I should say. And this Three Critics of the Enlightenment, he's covering Vico, Heyman, and Herder. So I'm just going to zoom through. We're at 34 minutes. And then picked up The Power of Ideas with a foreword by Avishai Margalit. Hope that's right. Nice. Nice. $7. So these are short essays about how ideas have powerfully shaped the modern world. It ranging from philosophy to education, Russia to Israel, and Romanticism to Marxism. Berlin demonstrates why intellectual history matters. Included are his last essay, My Intellectual Path, a retrospective autobiographical survey, and Jewish Slavery and Emancipation, the classic statement of his Zionism. Among his other subjects are the Enlightenment, nationalism, political realism, historicism, and the Russian intelligentsia. So, that's right on my alley. So, The Power of Ideas. And then finally, got Political Ideas in the Romantic Age, with a foreword by William A. Galston. It's a really nicely packaged set of essays, and just collected in such a just handsome little paperback volumes. I love them. But Political Ideas in the Romantic Age. See, it's hard to read this purple on the purple paper here. He's arguing that the political ideas of 1760 to 1830 are still largely ours, down to the language and metaphors they are expressed in. Berlin provides a vivid account of some of the era's most influential thinkers, including Rousseau, Fichte, and Hegel. So we've been hearing Hegel a lot in the last few books that I've talked about. Okay, this is cool. This new edition features the previously unpublished delivery text of Berlin's inaugural lecture as a professor at Oxford, which derives from this volume and stands as the briefest and most pithy version of his famous essay, Two Concepts of Liberty. And there you have it. So then this nice little selection of the nice little set that I have now of Isaiah Berlin is like the crowning glory of the Princeton University Press annual sale. I have
you have completely lost the plot of this book.
I've lost the plot. You guys, I'm exhausted. All right, but I've had fun. And I hope you enjoyed these books. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm going to go take some Tylenol and try to eat something because I have a raging headache right about now. Martine, anything to say?
You're going to sleep for about 50 years.
I might sleep. I might go to bed and just wake up at noon tomorrow. But anyway, you guys, hope you enjoy all the videos I've been making. I got to start uploading them now. And until next time, BookTube. Yes. Anything, Martine? Peace out. That's it. Bye. It's out.